already outside, so just pop out, grab your photos, and then come back in. I'll just wait for you.
Sure. Oh man, this is beautiful.
You want to take a pic?
That's alright, we're mucking around. Thanks. We will watch cricket from here, this level. So this one is like expensive, is it? But this will, you can clearly see everything from here. It's beautiful.
Okay, we'll keep moving, folks. I'm going to give you level 3 as well to get some photos out of level 3. And get out the back, please. So there's a football stadium under construction. It's quite amazing actually watching it all come down. It sort of was a bit like the Colosseum. It looked like some old Roman ruins or Greek ruins or something. It's sort of half the stadium bricked down. So it took them a while to get everything down and then lay all the foundations. But now they're starting to rise up, which is going really quickly. So they're right on target for time. Because of COVID, there was no events happening out here. So they were able to work 7 days a week. So they're sort of ahead of time. So we're expecting July 2022. There's a game plan, a football game planned for that day. So yeah. So this will be rugby league, rugby union and soccer. So the Sydney Cricket Ground is for cricket and Aussie rules football. This is your other codes of football over on this side over here. So still 45,000, it's the same capacity, just better quality seating, better quality Wi-Fi, better quality food, better quality toilets, better quality media suites, things like that. Right, let's head inside.
வீடியோஸை கட் பண்ணணும் அன்னெசரி தான், இதெல்லாம் அன்னெசரி வீடியோஸ். ஸ்டில் வாக்கிங் டு
If they don't, you've got to dance. Okay, so this is the media level through here. So I'll take you into our main room first. Come on through. Grab some photos out the front windows, grab a seat up the front, and I'll give you a chat about what we can see. So grab some photos if you want to, then take a seat. We'll spend about 10 minutes in here. Just 'cause it's nice and comfortable, with a nice view. So apologies, it is a little bit messy from the match last night, or the game last night. There's still a bit of food scraps around. And if you notice feathers as we're walking around, that's from Mardi Gras last weekend. And you can still actually see the rainbow outline around here outside of the field, where all the participants in Mardi Gras walked around the field last Saturday night. So this room we're sitting in here is our main media tribunal. So we can put 100 people into this room. It is specified where they have to sit, so when they walk in they can't just sit anywhere. There is a list of where the places to sit are. Apparently the second row is the best row to sit in, because the front row you get too much sun in your face. So we're talking cricket here, and then once you're up the back you can't see quite as well. So apparently the second row is where the prestigious people sit, down there. To your left-hand side are VIP boxes, and these are majored corporate sponsors. So it'll be like Channel 9 or Macquarie Bank, or main sponsors. They can bring their guests in to the areas down here. There's a bar area and food facilities in behind those, and then they can sit out there. To your far right-hand side here is the Trust Suite. So that's where my big bosses get to hang out in the Trust seat, or if the Prime Minister of Australia comes to visit, he sits in the Trust Suite. So that's the same level that we're on now, just down the far end. Between us and the Trust Suite is where the TV cameras go. And so that's the commentary boxes in there behind them, and I'll take you into the commentary boxes shortly. But in this room is the written press. So these are people who are writing about what they can see on the field. So it's not just newspapers and bloggers, it can also be TV stations that don't have commentary rights. So the commentators are sitting in a room beside us, talking about the game as it's happening, but other TV stations can sit in here and still write about it. And in tea break, they can run outside and go, yes, it's a great day here at the SCG today. Here's what's just happened. Okay, bye, see you later. Okay, so they can sort of do a quick grab to the news doing that. Looking out to the field, you can see our cricket square there in the centre. It's really important at the SCG that we do not drop in pitches. So most stadiums now around the world that convert between cricket and football codes during the year will drop in their pitch. They'll grow their grass somewhere else and then come and drop it in. We do not drop in pitches. So we keep maintaining our pitches throughout the year. The footballers do tell us it feels like running on concrete when you're running over the cricket pitch, but we maintain it. We have 9 pitches. So pitch number 1 is your far left, pitch number 9 is your far right, which makes pitch number 5 right in the middle, and pitch number 5 is always used for test. So the test match is always centred on the field. When we're playing one-day internationals or the Sheffield Shield, we'll move it out to pitch 2 or 3 or 5 or 7 or 8 on the ends. The fence line is not our boundary. We always have a rope as our boundary. So we can then skew the rope slightly depending on which pitch that we're using out in the centre as well, so it's slightly skewed. And I only found out last year that we have a male rope and a female rope. So the female rope is much thinner and shorter, and the male rope is longer and thicker, so that when the ladies are playing, their border is slightly in closer than what the gentleman is when they're playing. We use 2 different types of grass out here. We use a couch and a ryegrass, and we overseed them as we change over season. It takes us about 6 weeks to change from football to cricket or from cricket to football. When we get down onto the field, you'll see there is a slope up into the centre. There's a 17 centimetre rise up to the centre. So we've got good drainage to drain everything off. It's a very sandy soil that we use out here, except for obviously in our centre square we've got our bulleye soil. And it can take less than an hour for actually everything to drain off after it has rained. So it's pretty good quality to get the drainage off. Not so much fun for when we're playing rugby though, and we've got scrums and things happening and ripping up all the ground around it. You can see directly in front of us, sort of just to the right of the yellow rope here, there's 4 green squares of fake grass. That's where the goalposts go for Aussie rules football. So it's right up at the boundary. We do put netting over the seats directly behind them, so nobody's going to get hit in the face with a football. However, our field is slightly shorter than other AFL fields. So we will still have a 50-metre line, but it's not 50 metres, it's only 45. So when our Swans are training to go to Melbourne, they train on the field outside. So they can get the feel of that 50-metre line out there, yeah. Now there is a connection between cricket and Aussie rules football. Now it's going to sound like a joke, but 4 men walked into a pub. There was an Englishman, there was an Irishman, and there was 2 Australians. Walked into a pub in Melbourne in the 1850s. And they said, Australian cricketers are getting fat and lazy in winter. We need something for them to do during the winter months, and we have these grounds going to waste. So that night they wrote out the rules for what they called Victorian football. Now, some people will argue that it is like a Scottish game, like a Scottish football. Some people will argue that it's like Marngrook, which is an Australian Aboriginal sport. It's a blending of the two, because you had an Englishman, an Irishman, and 2 Aussies at the table. One of those Aussie men, Tom Wills, had grown up in an Aboriginal community, and so he'd learnt to play Marngrook. So it's this beautiful blending of our different cultures here in Australia. We now claim it from Victoria. So Victoria used to have it, we now call it Australian rules football. So the whole country is pretty passionate about it. And it's one of the fastest growing sports in Australia. And we have an amazing women's league now happening as well. A couple more stories to tell you before we finish up in here. So on your right hand side you have our beautiful old members pavilion. Next to it is our ladies pavilion, and I'll tell you a bit more of their history when we're down standing in those pavilions themselves. But directly opposite there was a space known as the Hill. And as it suggests, it was just grass. It was a hill. It was the cheap seats. And during the 1970s and 1980s especially, it became a rather dangerous place to be because we invented beer in cans. So we could consume a lot of beer, and we then had projectiles that we would throw at the opposing team. Also, someone came on a tour and told me that you could often buy your beer on a disc. So there was 4 holes in the disc. There'd be a can of beer or a cup of beer in each of those discs. Each of those holes, you'd drink your beer, and then you're sitting there with a disc in your hand. What do you think you're going to do if you've had 4 beers and you've got a disc in your hand? Yes, exactly. So lots of things happened there. So the Hill was a rather scary place to be. Also, our capacity at the moment is 45,000, but back in the 1960s we got up to 79,000 people were at this ground because people packed into the hill, so they were squashed in together. Also, back in the 60s, we sat on the roofs. We don't sit on roofs anymore. So we will never get up to that capacity of 79,000 again. We're much safer to stay at about 45,000. And one other story to tell you is about the voice from the hill. And in fact, he's such an important voice, there is a statue of him. So I'm going to show you where the statue is. You can't see it clearly from here, but you can zoom in with your camera or Google Yabba, the voice from the hill. If you look to the far side, so behind the goalpost is the tunnel where the trucks come out. Stay on the fence line, stay on the grass, go to your left. There is a small bay of seats. There is a staircase. There's a big bay of seats. There's a second staircase. There's another bay of seats, a third staircase, and in the very front row, in the very middle of the next bay of seats, you can see a dark shape. That is the statue of Yabba, known as the voice from the hill. Yabba is sitting on his esky. He's got a half-drunk bottle of beer at his feet. He's got a paper bag with peanuts in a shell. He's got one hand up to his mouth, yelling abuse at the English cricketers, because that's what he liked to do. So Yabba was here during the 1930s. during that Bodyline series. That's when he was out here and became known as the voice from the hill. So I'll give you a moment if you want to take some photos in here, and then we will just head down the corridor and I'll show you the commentary boxes. So in winter, people playing industry football will come up with scarves around the Abbott's neck. This is what the Abbott looks like. They'll put scarves around his neck. When they're here in summer, they'll put flower lace around his neck, or put some zinc on his nose. So yeah, people in Sydney enjoy seeing these.
Oops.
Okay, friends, we'll keep moving. Just go this way for me. No worries.
Got my stranglers there.
That's very much. So this is, again, media along here. So there's a number of radio commentary, TV studios along here. The pictures on the walls are media personalities from the past. So we're recognising them because when you think about it, that's how we know our sport.